In the beginning, it didn't take long to catch on to what was going on around us. And once I saw a creature, changing colors, it was on, because I had now, at that point, seen two different types of these creatures, and they were drastically different. It was then that we started recognizing what we saw in reality at home when we looked at our footage. What we started seeing were variations and combinations of several different types of creatures. And you could see it in each one of the individuals. Some were more human, some were more troll, and some had the appearance of monkeys that walked upright. I think ultimately we were forced from the beginning, like the very beginning, to take a look at ourselves and a lot of the stuff that we were thinking, and realize that it was us. We were the ones who were making decisions to ignore that these creatures existed. We were the ones who refused, no matter how many people came forward, to stand up to the authorities that did nothing. We all have a degree of culpability in this situation where the hominoids are concerned. It's been largely ignored, and the academics that are responsible and have been literally paid by us to explain this aspect of our reality have completely ignored it in favor of getting a paycheck and supporting the agenda, which essentially maintains that people who say they've seen these creatures are seeing something and confused. An existing animal, perhaps, is one of the explanations they give. But the explanations given by these quote-unquote experts are clearly disrespecting what the eyewitnesses all described they saw. The consistencies are completely ignored. The fact that people that don't know each other are claiming to have seen these giant creatures that pretty much all resemble each other. We have consistencies in eyewitness descriptions across the board. Knowing myself and how I feel about being observed by an enormous, hyper-vigilant super predator that is more powerful and smarter than anything we've ever actually realized as the human race existing in our wilds. I don't feel comfortable. I don't. And one of the reasons is their indifference. They display a high degree of indifference. That is, they are unwilling to interact with us in any kind of a positive way, regardless of the amount of positive stimulus introduced into the interaction. They resist at all costs revealing their presence to us. They will observe from hundreds of yards away and still be completely covered with bush. It is as if the creatures know somehow, as a race, that in the past we've done them harm at some point on some level, and they refuse to interact with us again as a species. Ultimately, we're talking about a species that is our only direct competition for the land and the resources that are in that land. These guys have no voice. And it seems the people we've put in charge of the forests have no intention of being honest with us about their presence. Indeed, we're looking at a species of hominoid that comes in many different shapes and many different sizes with many different motivations. For instance, the hominoids in areas that have human development may be a little more used to observing or interacting or being in areas that humans recreate in than, say, a mountain sasquatch that's never encountered a human being before. Coming down out of the mountains, we don't know how those creatures will react. Whereas the creatures that we study have been around us for 10 years, and we've even fed them. The time for denying all of this has long since passed. It was disrespectful for our authorities to even set about the path that they've taken us down. It is completely ridiculous that many people have that little courage to stand up for what, again, is another species of intelligent, upright walking man. To deny its existence is ludicrous. To act as if your fellow Americans and fellow mankind hasn't seen these creatures is completely off base and disrespectful. And the time for acknowledgement has come. Yeah, giant foot track punch holes. This thing is that big.
See it?
Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah, that's a 17-incher right there.
Oh, gee.
All right, first let's take a look at last week's footage of that little guy hopping. You can see the left-hand corner, I've highlighted it. It's up there. This is real speed. I'm gonna zoom in now, and this is actual speed, real time. Now, you can't even see the hop, it's so fast. You have to really look to see it. This is how they're able to move. If they want to, they can turn on an explosive speed instantaneously. This thing goes from standing still into that hop and lands. That's real actual speed of the film. If we were to measure how fast that 8 or 9 foot jump was, I'm quite sure it would be something ridiculous that we would consider to be unnatural, though it's perfectly natural with the musculatures of these creatures. So we've caught this kind of thing on film before. This is one of our primary spots, the creek bed. There's a group of them here, and as we pulled in on this particular day, I looked to my left as I was pulling in the car, and I saw an upright figure moving between the trees. Keep in mind that if you can see into that tree line, you're seeing above the 6 foot high mark. There's a depression in there. It's a creek bed. If you can see something in there, it's big. So anyway, I keep searching here in real time. Eventually, I see this thing. I see it, it ducks, and it throws something up in a tree, right? Ducking, and it throws something up in a tree. If you watch closely when it ducks, you can plainly see this figure. Again, the reason we can see that thing above the foreground ground brush is it's gigantic. It's huge. And you see the duck, and then it throws something up in a tree, right? Now pay attention to that duck. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The speed. Look at how fast. Again, if you can see that, and you can, it's huge. And so how does this compare to the speed and the actual ducking movement of the other footage? Let's take a look. It's ridiculous. It's the same type of speed. And really, this kind of movement represents an ability to process information much faster than I think, we're capable of. So we're seeing something that has, a 12-cylinder brain that's processing information much faster, enabling it to engage in these high speeds and accomplish these fluid motions. This is something that's very common in gibbons. Gibbons are thinking 5 steps ahead, and they're able to process that information. If you watch some videos on gibbons, you're going to be freaked out at the movements they're capable of. This is very similar. I mean, this thing is fast. There's no getting around it. That's 50% speed, and it's still quick. Look at this. There's that duck. There's that duck. Same thing as this. I think we've got the same species here, miles apart, and this is a really big one in a creek bed. Keep in mind, again, if you can see that individual and he's well above the foreground, he's enormous. That thing's at least 12 to 15 feet in the background of that tree in the foreground. It's huge. That brush at the bottom of your frame, that's right around 6 feet, the tops of those. This is a big thing back there. So again, while, this is extreme similarity in speed, it also points to an ability to process information much faster than what we can do. This thing is, it's essentially walking around waiting to fire when it needs to. And when they fire, because they need to kill something, you can believe that it's going to be fast and violent. This is just a little guy. Look at this speed and agility. Comes up, jumps, down. Up, jump, down. Up, jump, down. Up, jump, down. Up, jump, down. Think about the speed of that. Up, jump, down. Up, jump, down. That thing's brain is working. Up, jump, down. Up, jump, down. Think about the decision making in the wilderness, that the rate you would have to be processing in order to do this. In the leaves, few feet back from the palmettos, one of the creatures, and you can see he's changing positions. It's you can see this is the mouth. The nose has the spade shape, and then up here is where the eyes are. It's one of these creatures, but he's looking down his nose at us. You can see there he's got the nostrils flared, and you can see that kind of Fred Flintstone in the bushes there. Yeah, that's Bigfoot. That's one of those cavemen out there. The Florida. People sometimes confuse this type with the other kind, which is like, I think typically when people see it, they call it the skunk ape. It has a more chimpanzee look to it. There's that frame, beautiful. Looking down his nose. Here, look at this one. It's the exact same type of creatures. It's in 3 different places I've seen this type. I mean, you can see exact resemblance here. I'll put it side by side. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Bigfoot Researcher's Journal. You're looking at that hair sample that one of our team members pulled from a barbed wire fence here in South Florida, bordering a swamp. Now, here in South Florida, we know for a fact that there are no species that are known or accepted to science that actually have clear hair. The only thing on planet Earth that has clear hair is a polar bear.
Sup, man?
There's a nice sample of polar bear hair right there. You can see it's crystal clear. Same kind of hair as our sample. And as we know, polar bears do not live in the swamps of South Florida. That's ridiculous.
Man, you can have this heat. See ya.
So what animal does that hair come from that we found snagged on that barbed wire fence? That is the question, isn't it? Well, since we already know that polar bears are the only species on the planet that actually have crystal clear hairs, my hair's clear, bitch! And they don't live in the swamps of South Florida. It's hot! We have to deduct from logical reasoning that there's something else, something out here in the swamps in South Florida that has hair just like a polar bear. Why you all up on me, dog? Because it really is, if you use logic, crystal clear. But let's learn a little bit about what having clear hair is actually like. And it is cool. Did you know polar bears can actually turn green? It's a condition that results from them rolling around on the concrete in their enclosures. Small pieces of algae can get caught in their hairs and then start to grow. Over time, the polar bear begins to turn green. Curiously, some of the hairs in the sample that we found here in South Florida actually have algae growing on them as well. And if the polar bears, when they have algae growing on their hairs, turn green, and the sample we found here in South Florida has algae growing on it, turning it green, then logically, it's safe to say whatever this hair belongs to probably looks green. And since polar bears are extremely large carnivorous mammals, it stands to reason that the sample we pulled here in South Florida from that barbed wire fence in the swamp could be from a large carnivore that is able to hide because it appears to be the same color as the forest, from both its clear hair blending in and the algae growth all over its body. Aren't these guys supposed to be white? Polar bear hair literally adopts the coloration of the light that shines upon it. Like this guy, enjoying a late afternoon walk in the orange afternoon sunlight.
I'm orange right now. It happens sometimes.
So in the afternoon sunlight, they can appear to have an orange tone to their hair. Or like this poor guy, with algae growing all over him, they can look green. Now, whatever it is that's out here in the swamps of South Florida that has this clear hair would surely have the same ability to change color like a polar bear. See, this color changing business is all about the hair, not the species that wears it. Sir, are you trying to tell me there's a giant, hairy, green monster running around the forest? So literally, if we were to put clear hair on a squirrel, super squirrel, and that squirrel was in a forest, he would all but vanish into the environment. The polar bear is a huge carnivorous mammal. Is it at least possible that there could be another huge carnivorous mammal in the state of Florida running around with clear hair? It's not just possible, it's happening, as you can plainly see from this sample. Whatever this thing is leaving this hair, it can blend in perfectly in whatever environment it's in. Literally, if these creatures pass in front of a polka-dotted wall, they will pick up the polka dots and retransmit those colors. Basically, the gist of it is that there are creatures in the forest that blend in so well and that are so adapted to living on and in the ground that you're missing it. Look at this hair.